It's not by birth, your birth is not important. Well, you see, the explanation given by Hindus for the past 2000 years, until 1 or 2 generations ago, was exactly the opposite. They said, okay, the guru saw that this boy is truthful. Why is he truthful? Because he takes after his father, of course. And so his father must have been truthful. And who is truthful? But the Brahmins are truthful. So this boy is a Brahmin, so he can become my pupil. Now, that's not necessary. Maybe the modern reasoning is better, but then you should take into account that you are dealing with a rival explanation that is casteist. And so if you argue that caste is not, that birth, caste by birth is not important, then you have to manage to overrule that other explanation, which I see no one doing. So, there is the problem of ignoring facts. I've many times had this discussion about the origin of astrology with Hindus claiming that it's all of Hindu origin. Vedic astrology, in the bookstores you have all these books about Vedic astrology, they are in fact about horoscopes. And though there existed some kind of astrology in the Vedas, it was not individual horoscopes. You could determine a good time depending on the position of the stars. Sometimes were propitious for starting a new building, or going to war, or contracting a marriage. And some moments were not so good. And so one remainder of this is the present day Hindu habit of choosing particular times for weddings. Anyway, so that existed, but that's not horoscopy. You see, the system of making horoscopes came from Babylon and was brought into India by the Greeks. And so you can see there are many Greek influences in the first books of astrology. You know, the first one of which is called Yavana Jataka. You see, the birth horoscopes of the Greeks. And so originally, for instance, the signs of the zodiac were named with their Greek names. And then only later were these translated. But even then, they were only translations of the Greek names. They were not like the Chinese names, for example. And a number of technical terms are taken from Greek. Like, for instance, Kendra means the house of horoscope on one of the corners, one of the angles. Now, that's the Greek word kentron, which is still with us in the English form center, and so on. I mean, there are numerous signs of this Greek origin. And so they just look past it. They give no account of this, no explanation of this. Maybe there is some way to explain this away. Well, they don't even try. They'll just ignore it. Well, I don't like that. Limited horizon. You see, they love to quote, "Let noble thoughts come to us from all sides." Look, these Vedic people were so universal, you know. And yet they themselves, you see, can't really think of the outside world, except in negative terms. I mean, me as a foreigner, of course, I've been called all kinds of names on Twitter. So, you see, nationalism in India was, of course, useful and normal and understandable during the freedom struggle, but that's long ago, you know. So here I sympathize with Jawaharlal Nehru. You see, in his famous independence speech, he said that, you know, we have to rededicate ourselves to India and to the larger cause of humanity. Well, that's exactly the correct viewpoint. I agree. Long live Nehru. Then moralism, yes, I gave the example of the word Arya. So it has the neutral meaning of compatriot. The meaning good is only derivative, and, you know, it took time before that became the meaning. A very important one is that they personalize issues. A really great problem. You see, why did Aurangzeb commit all these atrocities against Hindus? Oh, Aurangzeb was a tyrant. Yeah. But, you know, there were more tyrants in history. I'm sure that, you know, I haven't particularly studied it, but many of the Hindu kings were certainly tyrants. But you see, they didn't go destroying places of worship. because that was not part of the ideology that they had been groomed in. If Aurangzeb had been a fanatical Jain, he would not have gone around destroying mosques or temples or whatever. You know, if you're a fanatical Jain, maybe you become a fanatical ascetic, you see, becoming, you know, that you can count your ribs and stuff like that. But because he chose Islam, now that explains it. You know, and in fact, in some respects, he was a very good man. At least he was a pious man. If you think religion is a good thing, well, he had religion. But because he had religion, he did that which Islam told him to do. Yeah, then you have simple, well, untruths. Lies, I'd hesitate to accuse someone of lies because a lie again means intention. You know, if somebody says something that's not true, well, maybe he believes it. He's just mistaken about it. You know, that has to be investigated separately. But, you know, some things are really false. Like, for example, I've heard many Hindus say, the NASA satellite photography has proven that the bridge between Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka was man-made. That it was made by the Vanara army with Rama. Well, I think that's false. There is the false Macaulay quote. In fact, in a conference just a few days ago, you know, the local organizer who was introducing me actually gave that quote in all seriousness. It's a famous quote. It starts with, "I have traveled the length and breadth of India, and I've never seen a beggar or a thief, and they're so noble and so great, and this is thanks to their fantastic culture. And the only way we can subdue them is to destroy this culture. And that's why I am now proposing English education rather than Sanskrit education." Now, you see, I've investigated where this comes from and so on. I did an article about it, showing that this is not true. But even before I started investigating it, when I just saw the text, I knew it was a forgery. Because in this stage of colonialism, you see, every colonialist, even when he was producing or proposing a scheme that would end up disastrous for the natives, he would still present it as beneficial. And so you see, this discourse just doesn't fit. And indeed, you see, Macaulay was fairly positive towards the Indians. He already thought, unlike most colonialists at the time, he already thought of conferring independence upon the Indians, of making the Indians equal with the British. But to achieve that, they first had to be anglicized. Because you see, now, you know, it's just primitive, superstitious, and so on. So just as the British, by learning Latin and so on, have, you know, gotten civilized, this way the Indians have to become civilized thanks to English. So, you know, his motives are a bit more complex than to say, he wanted to destroy India. No.